wonderful panel. It's still really a female in the games industry. My name is Johnathan Gibbs with Edugaytion.com, and welcome. Let's hear it for the ladies. Well, it's no secret that I am a male. And so we just, Tatjana, would you like to give some background as to the reason why we decided to do this? A second year in a row. I was here last year, you know.
So, I mean, it's really the thing is, it's my it's really backward. So this is the third year in a row we've done this. Something that we really stand for is positivity, and we want to make sure that when we talk about equality in the gaming industry in terms of, you know, gender identity and everything, there's a lot of women in the world, and it's not all about just helping us women feel comfortable in this industry and, you know, help us get our foot in the door, but it's also about helping males kind of figure out how to give us that support system. Because a lot of us, you know, are in relationships and our significant others of the opposite sex. We're like, you know, we don't know how to help you. We don't know what to do. And the part of this panel is to help you guys figure out how to do that, as well as feel like you have a safety net, and then you guys can reach out to us as well.
So who out in the audience, before I go into my introduction, identifies as male? Raise your hand. See, look at that. Who identifies as female? Look at that. And if you're comfortable sharing, who identifies as like non-binary or trans, and we even have members of that community here. So we're all here together. So without further ado, my name is Johnathan Gibbs. I am the moderator for this great panel. I've worked with Tatjana for a number of years. We met at 2dx.com, an independent games website that was really great. It's now folded, no longer with us. And now I'm the founder of Edugaytion.com. It is a website that focuses on the LGBTQ struggle for people of color specifically, but just like this panel, it's open and inclusive to all. We're going to go down the line, and we're going to get into our discussion.
Hi guys, my name is LeBoeuf, or Sarah the Beef, as people call me on the internet because no one can know my name. One second. I'm a freelance game journalist. I've worked with a number of outlets, with the Escapist for several years. I work with Digital Trends, I review for MacLife. This weekend I'm working with Mashable and Ars Technica. When I'm not doing that, I also am a board member of This, which is a mental health awareness and raising charity. If you've been to our AFK room, that's another thing we do at PAX every year. We get home. So on top of being like, you know, super feminist, I'm also a really big mental health advocate.
Take.org. I highly recommend you guys go to the Diversity Lounge. We have a room and get more information because it's an amazing organization. I'm Tatjana. I'm at Koalition.com with my friend Tony here. Was formerly of 2dx. Johnathan was actually my producer, and he was the best, and still is, the best right-hand man I've ever had at my side. Just as of last week, I'm actually officially the co-founder and co-president of a mobile development startup company. So, pretty excited about that. Please find me, because I need that desperately. But I will pass it on to Sabriel.
Hi there, my name is Sabriel Mastin. I am a freelance writer and critic with an emphasis on the indie industry. Big fan of indie games, and really love the support that part of the gaming industry.
Hello, I'm McKiernan, and I'm an artist at Harmonix. I was actually just recently this past year the first female art lead on Project Vejnovic. Central Series 1, 2, and 3, and Fantasia, Music Law, Vid Rhythm, and Beats.
Hello, my name is Mercer. I am co-founder of a website and podcast network called AwfulBit. Prior to that, I was a writer for PAX East, and then prior to that, I did a ton of freelance writing on my own with a focus on inclusivity in gaming.
gone down and done the introductions, I kind of want, and you can go in any specific order. And we did this before the show. I want you to tell the audience some of your personal goals and professional goals within this industry and in your life. So just kick it off, anybody.
I think I can speak to that. I'm at a point in my life now where I find myself taking on more of a mentor role to, the younger generation of little babies. And, how many of you were born in the 1990s or after? Oh my God, you are innocent. Yeah. And it's, I was lucky enough to have like a super amazing role model and mentor in this industry, and then it just got to the point where I realized like I would have to mention like people who were, like 5-10 years younger than me, and they were just starting out, and they're looking to me to know what to do. And it's like, how did I get to this point? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. But I'm just hoping I can influence, people, especially, younger women, in the same way that like people helped me when I was coming up, and like no one had to help me, but because people gave me feedback, people took me away. I just want to like return that to the community.
So like I said, helping everyone kind of figure out how they can either support someone that's getting into this industry or learn how to get that support net. But let's face it, we need to go away from the whole gender thing, women, men, whatever, We're all people. Are we not all people in here? And we should all be treating each other like people. What like the golden rule of kindergarten is treat someone else the way you want to be treated. And that's what I hope that everyone gets out of this panel, is that we all live on the same earth. We all use the same resources. We all have hearts and feelings, and we all have the opportunity and the right to succeed and do what we want in our lives and be happy. So that's my goal.
So one of my goals is, for a number of years, women and other minorities out there just haven't had a great voice. And my friends have helped push me to get my voice out there. And I want to be able to I want to be able to help others with their voice out there. So I like to spread the word by reading a piece or see a great video. I just like to share that and share it everyone else can see it about.
I suppose, so as an artist, you spend a lot of time just learning how, like your habit rather than and you do that for like years and years and years, and I guess I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, I can kind of go now. Why? So now I'm like, why am I trying? So I wanna like inject more personality, more opinions, into those drawings. I want the drawings to be more than just like a technical ability. So when I'm making a game, it's like, why are you making the game? You can technically make a really great game, but like, what can you do? So that's sort of where I'm at. I spent my life learning how to sit down and go live.
It's awesome when you're last because everyone says something. Like, it's really awesome that I wanted to say. I think, I resonate a lot with everything that my fellow ladies up here have said, and just trying to better support others. So like, I think as you rise into success, it inspires you to want to help other people find that same success. But that can be in a number of different ways, beyond mentoring and things like that. It could just be like playing indie games or talking about indie games or understanding the psychology behind why we're playing games or why they influence us the way that they do. So that you can use that to relate to other people. That's something that I'm working a lot on, is paying attention to games and what they mean to me versus what they mean to other people and what that can say about us as humans.
We have the slide up here with our Twitter handles and our names. We put this up here for a reason. We want you guys to, if you have a question or you're in a place where you're uncomfortable, please reach out to us. We would not be sitting up here talking to you every year if we didn't want you to come to us for support. So please don't feel ashamed, don't feel embarrassed, and reach out to us if you need someone to talk to.
That leads us into the next point that I was going to make, and now that we're getting into the discussion, I'm going to bring up the fact that, first of all, it sounds like for the most part, we're up here now on the stage of mentorship, of wanting to reach out and help people, right? Just last year, Jamie was actually a part of the audience. You know, so you're in development, you work for Harmonix, I can say that right?
Yes.
She works for Harmonix, and she was out there, a person interested in what we had to say here at the panel. And then there are people that are not even in the industry that are coming to figure out how do they get their foot in the door? How do they feel comfortable being female in this industry? And so I think maybe we can speak to being at many different levels, whether you're a developer and you're here today, or whether you have nothing to do with the industry but you're trying to get in. What advice would you give to someone? And we'll start with Jamie in here, because you were literally out there just last year. And now you're here on the panel.
Well, this is actually also my very first panel. A little bit of, you guys gave me something last year, for this talk, and then I'm sorry.
Thank you.
You gave me something through this talk, and then I wanted to give something back again. So when I saw it was happening, and it was sort of like a chance to be like, okay, yeah, I could speak to that. I could say my piece too, and hopefully more people.
Right, and in doing that, you're creating a foundation.
Yeah. We sort of, question.
First year, yeah. And that was really inspiring for me. And I think the one piece of advice that I would give if you're looking to be on a panel or just be in the games is make friends. I think that was definitely one of the most helpful things is finding other people who felt similarly so that I didn't feel so scared putting these things out. So I remember I wrote a blog post about that first panel, and there was a lot of conversation that came out of it, but it really scared me to write it because I admitted some flaws in my own personality in a very public way. And everyone was so friendly and receptive, or at least encouraging to share those words, that has helped me grow immensely, and I can't recommend it enough.
The thing is, even when I was getting writing about games, making games, even something deep culture focused in a career, and the thing you have to do with it, any male-dominated industry or company, is that you're always going to have to sort of push harder to be noticed and push harder to get people to be listened. And it can be big. It can be, there's a constant fight that quite frankly we shouldn't have to fight for. You have to fight because you can't stop. So don't underestimate the importance of having a really good support network in your life, on the internet. When I come to conventions like there are people I only see a few times a year at various conventions, but I'm so happy to see them, and it just makes my life better. Even on having a good Twitter network of followers, I'm having a bad day, I can be Twitter, I'm not feeling it today, and people just send me cat pictures. And it's a very simple, sweet thing, so definitely find that support network, and don't, and be as good a supporter to your friends as you want them to be to you.
And I was going to say too, to piggyback off of Mercer, I wrote an article about how life is strange, which is, if you guys haven't recognized it, helped me through grieving and how video games, and it was the hardest article I had ever written. My computer was wet, my hands were shaking, I was a mess. But that was by far the best article that I have ever written, and it has helped people. So if you think that you have an issue that might be shameful to you, might embarrass you, just try to write about it. Even if you don't put it on anywhere, even if you put it on a locked Tumblr account and then decide later you want to share it with your friends, you might actually be able to really open up and help other people as well, because you don't know who else is having that issue. And that's another thing. We have to also kind of go away from, there's no way that no one understands what I'm going through. That is a lie. Everyone has someone that they can go to. I have, a lot of anxiety about going to the doctor. Sarah's my sister with that. She gets me to the fullest, and she was the first person that I could actually admit that to, and we could talk to each other about it. And there's no smarter to say, so just do it. Just start writing, do it.
And to add to your point, you know, we've talked about things just in private before, and you said, well, I've also talked about this issue to XYZ person who's just not someone up on the panel, but has been on the panel before, like really high up women in the industry. So it seems like there is a network of support there. You just have to get involved. And I don't know if you want to mention her name, but you know.
I know that Sarah and I are both very close to Sarah is no longer. But Susan is just one of those people we met, and she told me not to wear heels to a show. She was here last week, heard that story, I'm going to tell you, don't wear heels to a show. It's the worst idea. And I looked at her and I was like, who is this woman telling me not to wear heels? And she gave me her business card, and I was like, oh shit. She's a huge deal. I was like, oh man. But you know what? I knew from that moment on that she was going to give me the hardest, truthful advice ever. And just before this panel, her and I had a conversation. I was freaking out about something, and I was like, she just gave it to me. She was like, what the hell are you freaking out about? Like, stop. Just calm down, breathe, you're done. Like, this is what it is. And it's like, no, this isn't you're right. So, if you guys need a mentor to look up to that's way up there, Susan is the greatest.
I just want to piggyback off of that too, so there is a network, right? And you scary when it's someone like Susan, you're like, oh shit, this person is like amazing, how do I talk to her? But that is just to go to like the title of our talk, like why it's awesome to be a female in this industry or anyone in this industry, because I think generally we're very open people, right? That are usually really down to have a conversation if you approach us. So there's not really that exclusivity I think you can find in some other places.
I bite sometimes. I don't think they do. So if you're scared of me, I promise that they don't bite as much, maybe at all.
Something I realized, we all have a similar story. This is your first panel last year, 2 years ago, mine was 2 years ago, and this year. Last year. And 2 years ago was where I met Tatjana, you've been here.
I'd be so bad.
Yes, she did.
People
From that year, 2014, whatever reason, that was my bing, like a moment where it's like I started getting into feminism and sexism, all these things, all these isms, and I started listening to the conversation. I'm a big fan of Twitter, and I know a number of, course, people on there. I'm going to mention that, but listen to the conversation, and you have something that's useful. I don't want to say budgeting these conversations, but watch what people are saying, let's learn from them, and participate where you can.
Yeah, just do, right? Just do. You just have to do it, and it's going to get out there, and someone's going to see it. So let's travel into the territory of. Now we know that there are big problems in the industry. There was just a panel yesterday at 4 o'clock. It was sexism in the games industry. How many were at that panel? So a lot of people interested in all of these isms, and without going into great detail about particulars. I just want you all to share some of the problems that you face in the industry that you have to work against, every day,
I just, the biggest problem is people thinking, you're not, you don't belong here. Okay, and you're constantly having to prove yourself. Guys will say oh, you probably play games, and I have to be like, I've been playing games since I was 6, and I play these games all the time. But it's something I have to do all the time, and you're always working against people by default, thinking you don't know what you're talking about, or you don't belong here, or men talking down to you, just saying, oh, well, you don't understand because in the comic book it was like this, and I was like, yes, thank you, I understand how comic books or oh, well, if you had played this game, you would know that this is a staple of genre. It's like, really, thank you. And then we'll take you to review the game? No. It's just, so it's just, But until then, I would just like to be accepted like at face value.
I was gonna say too, I've experienced, I worked at GameStop for 7 hard, long years. And that girl right there with the ears and the red hair was one of my best associates ever, and I love her to death. Her name's Katie, you should go follow her on Twitch. It's like 8 monsters old. She's awesome. But, there was, of course, like Sarah said, you have boobs, obviously, you know what you're doing. I'm like, well. But there's also, I've actually experienced things from women. Women in higher positions, such as like a public relations standpoint, or even like a higher end development standpoint, as a journalist, when you go in and you know what you're talking about, but they don't think you do. And I'm not saying all developers are like this, or
like this is what we got to say, is like the big caveat is more people are amazing. Okay? And like that's because if they weren't, we just would not be able to see her.
We wouldn't be here.
But it's the small group that's still fighting like these, just like ingrained sexism and gender stereotypes. It's, and it seems small, but to us it's big because that stands out the most.
It's our family. This is our family, and like I said with the females, it goes both ways. It's not just straight men attacking the females. It's everyone that attacks everyone at some point, and assumes because you're a certain gender that you don't know what you're doing. But again, like Sarah says, most people are wonderful in this industry, and don't let that small group of people scare you, because it's a lot smaller industry than you think. It's actually not that big. Everyone pretty much knows everyone, but the majority of us are loving people. I promise.
So the number of women developers is actually increasing, but the gap is still really large. I mean, we get excited at PAX and we're like, "Oh, line for my gap." We know that actually this year at GDC, there was a line for the women's bathroom. It was a beautiful moment. We were waiting in line like girls. But there's still a gap. You're still in the room. You've got the, maybe one, maybe 2 ladies in the group, and there's still a gap. But I think part of kind of closing that a little bit is just getting different, diverse people interested in those games, making games serve everyone, basically getting into better representation, like attracting the people to the games by showing their voices through the games. We did a cool thing on Game Central where we hired the choreographers full time. They were part of the team, part of the company, and brought this amazing culture to the studio that we just learned about. I mean, you've never seen such a big group of nerds trying to dance. And they just come in, they're so smooth and stylish, and they just come up and bust out all these awesome moves, and you're like, you're so amazing. But having them there on the team brought an authenticity. We even used them as like sourcing for the characters and how the characters act and dress, and we were designing characters with like asking them like what would really fit with this personality. And I think getting that kind of stuff in there, just people see themselves in these characters, and then they'll want to get involved in the industry. They want to, that's a thing I can do. And for that matter, just highlighting when there is like a female dev, when I was on a team that was largely, it was actually the first time I've ever been on a 50-50 split, like the team was half women, and it's interesting, I think, talking about that kind of stuff, just saying like, hey, you know what, this team did really well. We had a lot of diverse opinions, we got a lot of interesting stories out of this, and I just think that's a way to like get games to get people interested in the industry itself. Because it's something I can do. Look, very committed. Like, thanks.
So we talk about problems.
Yeah, like issues that you might have faced.
One of the problems that I have is online society, how open do I want to be about being trans? It's kind of a scary place to be trans in the online world and see a number of friends and feel like me or just crying to it all.
Love you, Sabriel.
So if you didn't know, I am. It's not a secret, it's just don't talk about too much.
Right.
It's still scary.
And it's a scary world. Right now, it's a scary world that we live in, and we're hoping to be very inclusive. I look up to you for, just standing in your truth and being who you are. Jamie, we had dinner last night and we talked about a specific issue. Oh, yes. And there was, I don't want to turn off the thing. We talked about the dynamic, right? Like, and I'm not going to mention any names, because I don't want people to Google and be like, well, who was doing this on this game? But like, there was a certain situation where like you were in charge of a project, but then another person was like, oh, let me do this. Oh, now it's great.
No, this was just a case in my career where somebody was basically your ideas are like what you're at. That's your asset. Like you're going there with a really good idea, and there used to be somebody who would just basically redraw it and you drew, and be like, oh, I like the idea too. Like it would take doing that.
And so I remember when we were talking, I was like, that's kind of like, not exactly, but like, the word now is mansplaining.
It was like a drawing version of that.
It's like, it's the exact same thing. And so I think that is a problem, like if anything like that happens, or like when an idea comes up. Go ahead.
I mentioned a little bit last night, just one thing that I always super struggled with my whole first year, I don't think I said one of this. Like I was extremely quiet. Maybe the lunch table, I was an intern and the contractor, and I was like, I don't feel like I should be saying anything. And then I finally realized that your opinions are super valid. And I work for a company that really appreciates your good opinions. Like it's actually an amazing company to work for because we really do talk about this stuff openly, and it was just and when I realized that what I was saying was really should be part of the conversation, and then I just let the shield down, and I'm like, I'm gonna tell you what I think, and it just turned out so much better.
Right.
Everybody just saying what they thought. And we had a lot of girls on the project, and it was a little bit of an artist thing too. The artists were like, okay, you're harming, and then later you go home, you go, but once we were probably like, oh, I think we should do this because this makes sense.
And you raise your voice. I had an idea as you were just talking, and I remember thinking this last night. I don't know if I brought it up, but there's a lot of assumption on both ends. Specifically, I was thinking just now. So I sing in the New York City Gay Men's Chorus, and so being a person of color in that large majority white cis gay male organization, they say, oh, we're all inclusive. And we welcome your ideas, but like unless we speak up and represent and bring awareness to a particular situation that's bothering us, or like, I have a rubber band. I'm just trying to draw a parallel there to like you being in your job, and you said you were there for like a whole year and you didn't speak up because you felt a certain kind of way. Maybe it was a hostile environment. We did talk about that as well.
This is
not hostile in like a malicious way, but just like people yelling over each other.
No, there's just excited, passionate.
Very excited and passionate people.
Which you can get into the mix, and there were some amazing women there to get into that mix, but just not wanting to put yourself into that. It's loud and people design meeting, looking at these ideas.
So we see this like all over, like whether we're talking about business meetings or like a development meeting, where like people are so passionate, and some people are not passionate like that, and so their ideas don't get across. So I brought up the idea because I personally know people in the industry, and I won't mention names, that I feel like because of that kind of environment where you have to yell over each other, you condition yourself to think that that's what you need to be. And so, and then it's a double-edged sword because being female, if you take on those attributes, then people are going to start looking at you like, oh, she's a... Whereas if a guy did it and they do it all the time in the meetings, it's like, oh yeah, he's just passionate. You know what I'm saying? Like, so.
And you feel it a little bit yourself too. You almost stop your skill like, well, I don't want to hear you jerk, like, and they're not
being more, opening up more, but trying to get the other people to calm down.
It's actually like not speaking up. And this is important because it's very easy to say, stand up for yourself, stand up for other women, don't be afraid. But, in practice, it's hard, especially in a professional environment when you're worried about your professional reputation, your job, your future career, these are all very real concerns. So it's very easy, especially if I worked in an environment that was almost all men. My first job in this industry, when I was writing about video games, I was the only female editor. And so, these guys are great, they're my good friends, but anytime I bring up any sort of gender or sexism issues, they would treat me like I was overreacting. And it's not because they were bad people, or because they were sexist jerks, it's because they really did not get how big an issue it was because it was not happening to them. So I sometimes feel like I'm being really annoying with this, and I probably am, but I don't care. I have to keep talking because otherwise nothing gets done. But it's important to acknowledge that it's hard to do that, and it's very hard when you're at work to stand up in a meeting and just say hey, I'm not really cool with the casual sexism that's going on in this conversation. Or even something I'll say to my friend a lot who will just make what seems like a harmless joke, but I realize sometimes gender stereotypes. And I'll say hey, I'm just being tired of gender stereotypes, you're too good for that. So there are ways you can speak up without, sort of going in there and flipping the table. As much as we would all love to do that, because it's really satisfying.
I actually have a question for Mercer. As because you started AwfulBit, correct? Is it you and your husband, or?
No, it's me and my colleague.
Okay, so it's a guy. So have you had any issues being co-founder, because my business partner is a guy as well, as a female starting up a site and not being taken seriously, or people thinking, there's no way you could have done this, and if so, how would you overcome that?
Yeah, so that was actually what I was going to talk about with my issue is, I feel like as a female, you need to do 10x more than your male counterpart in order to feel validated. Before I get all of it in my experience as well, which I think you were at a time of play better or take true or wrong. It was horrifying for me, and I stopped after that, but I feel like you wouldn't say that to me, but returning anyway, kind of maybe I'm not sure. But going back to that, there are people who are starting out that would reach out, and I would keep them in contact because I have a little bit more business savvy experience in that area. And they would say oh, I'm just looking for a profession that can be looking interested in. And they're like, no, you're going to talk to me. Actually, and they're like, oh, well, I figured that Brendan is probably the person to talk about this. And I was like, Brendan, if you want to talk about maybe video, sure. But if you want to talk about being on our site or advertising or any kind of affiliation stuff that goes through me, I'm the business person. And that was took a lot in terms of myself and having confidence in myself, which is something I've struggled with a lot. And then saying I am the person, and not being okay, well, I guess I think maybe Brendan could be really well complimented. And because I think in the past in that I definitely have done that. And understanding now that it's okay to be the person that you are, and that that's valuable, and that you are just as good, you don't need to pass it on to somebody else, which is what I definitely would have done in the past. And then working on that, more so internally, I think, even than something that you can do externally, because any of you can come up and tell me you're awesome, you're legit. But in my brain, maybe I wouldn't be thinking that, probably not. Be okay, thank you, probably just don't very well. But I think that's the biggest struggle, at least for a lot of people that I know, is feeling legit in your own self. Because once you do that, you can overcome a lot of other things, and you can tell sometimes maybe you talk to your own counterpart.
And that was a mistake too. Don't be afraid to be assertive, and that was something I
It's a problem if you're a woman, and people don't like it because it's why can't you be nicer? Why are you being so bitchy, bossy? I get
And it's almost like it's a defense mechanism for them. So, I mean, really, like, don't let that get you down. Like, stand your ground. And I said it last year, and I'll say it again. If you think you don't have a voice, you're wrong. You do, and you have every right to stand up for yourself. You don't need to defend yourself against people that are clearly closed-minded and moronic and want, nothing to do with you. But if it's something that you want, if there's something that this other person is standing in the way of you getting, do not be afraid to just stand your ground. As someone who suffers from anxiety, that is really hard. But once you repeat it to yourself in your head, you're like, yes, this is gonna be amazing. And then once you get comfortable with being you and talking about being you, it becomes easier and easier, and you will eventually get what you need and what you want and be happy doing what you're doing.
Do not be afraid of being called bitch. Bitches get it done.
Bitches.
About your part, and then this leads into the last part of the conversation because we're going to start getting ready for the Q&A session. The importance of your business partner being an ally to you and everybody else that's here as an ally. The importance of allies and moving forward. I would think that that's something that we would want to speak to, especially in your experience being in that position.
Yeah. I mean, having Brendan as my business partner and having a bunch of really great compatriots and my husband who's in the audience, I don't know. And having people out there that are strong allies and support me, even when I'm saying might be even contentious. So I can say things sometimes that aren't what everyone wants to hear, and that sometimes just need to be said, which would be a really scary thing. And having allies that support you in speaking your truth and representing your truth is incredibly important. And am I reading on that? And I feel like that is probably the most valuable thing I've been able to develop is a good set of allies that also helps, of course, if I'm going off on a weird thing, like I am right now.
Going off of something that you said, Tatjana, I just want to bring up the idea. It's important to not assume that everyone is going to react negatively. So if you call someone, I'm saying don't assume that it's going to be bad if you call someone out. Because me being at the intersection of so many things, black, gay, Asian, mixed, all this stuff, I feel and I don't like to get into the oppression Olympics, oh, my struggle is worse than yours. But even I come off with some kind of privilege over someone else, and I need to be called out on that if I ever say anything, And I have trained myself and learned to receive feedback and not say, oh, woe is me, how dare you try to call me out on it. So I think it's important to collect allies by, letting those people that you think might stand against you, let them know and then see how they react. Would you agree with that?
I would say too, when I first started going to Susan for advice, her advice is the rawest. It is sometimes not what we want to hear, but after you sit there and go, she's right, it was really difficult at first. There was a situation I was in and I told Susan about it, and what she told me to do made me cry. I was like, there's no way that this is what it is. But then when I realized she's right and that I do need to hear sometimes the things that we don't want to hear, it helps you grow so much as a person. And I feel old, but I'm young. I'm 25. I've been on my own. I've been on my own since I was 17. So I feel older. But as I got older, probably the last year and a half, 2 years, I really realized how important it was to be able to sit through the stuff that you don't want to hear, analyze it, and try to put yourself in their shoes and try to see what they see. Because, and I'm not sure how old everyone is in here, but I'm sure there's a lot of people my age or younger in here that might not understand that yet, but I'm telling you, it's going to come, it's going to be that moment that you're just like, oh my God, Mom was right. Mommy was right. And it sucks because sometimes you realize too late. So I'm telling you now, if someone gives you constructive feedback, constructive criticism, and it just tears you apart, try to breathe and just go, okay, let me put myself in their shoes. Why would they say something like this? And try and look at it from all angles because it has helped me grow. Susan has helped me grow exponentially. I would not be this mature and organized and logical if it was not for that and tearing me apart and something. don't be afraid to just cry, but then collect yourself and go, there's a reason behind this. Because with friends, there always is.
Right, and they have to be friends, and they have to be someone you trust.
Well, part of being a good mentor is, it's not only anyone to give people what they want to do when they come to you for advice. It's easier in the moment because no one wants to be the person who's upsetting someone else by telling them the truth. But, that it just put them helping each other out, to be honest with each other. And I find that, having to accept our stuff is kind of like an interesting metaphor for all of our situations in the community, because we all know heading into this that we have to deal with skepticism that possibly more than we would in, a normal person job. And, we've all still we're all still here. So then obviously, there are things we're fighting for. There are things we love about this. So even though, we have the negativity coming at us all the time, we still, want to be good and want to do good and want to help others.
And we want to help you, we really do. I'm going to say it again, it's not like a broken record. If you need someone to talk to, every single one of us, unless I'm wrong, you guys know I think, seriously, Twitter, whatever, just if you want to get information after the show, comments afterwards, we want to help everyone feel safe, loved, and involved in this industry.
So where do we go from here? 1 minute, each one down the line. Where do we go from here? How do we help?
Okay.
I was just going to say, I'm looking for
I'm sorry.
go into the question and answer session. So I guess we've got 2 mics.
Form a single file line.
And someone asked a question on Twitter.
So the lady voted. It kind of seems
I have 20 notifications.
Go ahead.
Oh, hi, we work together. That's recently. So one thing that really attracted me to this panel and why I chose to make sure and come to it is that the title was "It's Still Really Rad Being a Female in the Games Industry." And I thought that was really cool because, like, you know, there's a lot of talk about gender issues and like the problems in the industry and all the, like, really bad toxic stuff. And I think like that's really important and like a good thing for people to be thinking about. And I've seen every episode of Feminist Frequency. I love it. I love reading stuff like that. Big up story, awesome stuff. But I worry sometimes that like because there's like all this like scary stuff that people that would join the industry don't because they're just afraid. Place to be a woman or be genderqueer. So one thing I'd love to hear from the panelists is like one thing that you find really awesome about being a woman in the games industry.
I'd say the support system. I met Sarah in person, and John in person. Everyone else I met on Twitter. I think I might have met Mercer after the first meal very briefly, but I've never even seen Vejnovic in person. I've never even seen Sabriel in person until last year. We met on Twitter. And I consider them family. I love every single one of these people up here, and the power of building those relationships without even knowing them and knowing that they are real people that I can relate to and talk to is absolutely freaking rad. It's one of the best parts of this industry.
It's easy to well, for me, you know, it's been for a long time, and it's easy to forget what it is, and have like support network for women, especially when it's a situation where every day there's going to be some kind of fight. But it's a life changing experience. And yeah, like Twitter is a very powerful tool. I know it's a social network, we talk about the head content, community and people, but it can also be a place to meet people. I've met people I love on Twitter. I got a job on Twitter and freelance gigs. You know, just fine. So if you're feeling like, well, I don't live in a major technological hub or a major city, and I don't want to meet these people, just to the internet, get it message. But yeah, I think the thing is, if I lost like all my gigs tomorrow, you know, and I wouldn't write about video games anymore, and I have nothing to do with this industry, I would still have my friends, and that's more important to me.
But something that's kind of come up recently is a little bit of fear, right? There's always been like a, you know, nothing professional, but just recently, it never occurred to me growing up. You know, I grew up playing television trackers with my little brother, and we were always assistant behind, but, and then just, you know, like, it just doesn't even occur to you when you're little, and then one day, like, when it hits you, and you're like, oh, this is weird, like, what are they talking about? And then I kind of had to balance out that fear I had, but then you just think, well, this is my car, I have to be doing this is my everything, I have to make these games, you can't stop me from making these games. So, like, once you think about it that way, it's just, look, you have to be in this industry, it's what you do. So, I don't know, I had to kind of come to terms with that there might be people out there that are just mad. You're the one making the games, and you keep making games even for them. Like, you have to be like, I don't care, I have to make this.
I think the thing that I like the most about it is the perspectives. I don't know if I'm just like really bad with keys, something's wrong with my microphone, but the perspective that it affords me. I feel like we talk because we have to, right? Like we have to talk, otherwise we wouldn't have anything. And because of that, I learned so much more than I think I would have if I wasn't just by the nature of talking because it's what we have. And it's
For me, the biggest thing has been the support group. People are like, no idea even existed, coming together and talking about people out there. It's been wonderful. It's been really great.
All right, next.
Cool, thanks.
Want to ask a very general question about the content of games and playing games and the future of sort of more diverse representation. Like, Life is Strange was a breath of fresh air for me, a game that was unique and creative and centered around female friendship. But it still seems like there are a lot of games and big name games that rely on tropes that are frustrating and tired and rely on stereotypes about women. So I just want to ask you guys what you think about what you see in the industry about the future of that, about dealing with backlash from people who think that diversity is somehow a bad thing, and if you see it a more positive trajectory with more diverse and creative games and characters.
My recommendation, and I had a similar conversation last year, is say something, write a letter to the developer or something, be like, hey, this is how I felt about this. Don't be like totally like, oh, this is stupid because this reason, but be like, hey, this is my, my intelligent opinion about this, this is what society reflects on and how can we change it. Another big thing that I stand for, this kind of goes a little bit off topic of your question, but don't assume that, because we have a lot of, over-sexualized video game characters, both men and women, but don't always assume that there aren't women on those teams. There's a lot of women on these teams, on these design teams that actually do say the okay to, the passing of that, character design or whatever. So just remember that when you talk about that, you're not going for like the sexism approach necessarily, because you could be talking to anyone, and you can kind of just say, this is how I felt about this. This is how I felt on society from what I've seen. We're moving into the future, this is what I think, this is an example of something that I think is a better representation of that. How can we, start to make a better impact on the industry?
The other thing is that, when we have games with really sexist and have always female characters that were super great in so many ways, but then they do something really stupid and stereotypical, the thing is that they're making the game for an audience, and if the audience is accepting of it, they're going to keep doing it because that they need to stay in business and they need to engage with the audience. So I think it kind of starts with gamers themselves. Once we as a whole, not just the people who come to panels like these, but the people who never think about sexism or diversity or gender issues in gaming or anything at all, once they start speaking out and speaking with their wallets, then that's when things will change. And I think it's happening slowly, in that it's too slow for my liking. But we are seeing these changes slowly but surely. I mean, just think about the last time a publisher didn't have a female option for making a character. An outcry every time, probably. So, eventually there's going to be an outcry that the next publisher says, oh, we can't do this because we're going to get called out on our share.
Along the lines of just telling the developers, it really does make a big difference. And just hearing it could even be empowering someone within that company who was thinking that the whole time, but kind of got it out of a meeting, you say, hey, maybe we should do this, but now they've got a little bit of something. They're like, oh, look, people are, this is bothering people, and we do want some things, and then next game's going to be that much better for you, like I said, because most of the time, developers are good for it. They're going to keep, they will talk about it,
5 minutes.
I just want to say you all of the panel are such a big inspiration to women everywhere. When I came here, I was like, wow, they're really inspirational. But I wanted to ask, how do you deal with people when you have to? When you have to surround yourself with wrong choice with people who are so negative about females and gender equality. How do you deal with that, with those people that you have to be around?
You have to remember, starting with 2DX and doing a controversial editorials, people are like, oh, she's not telling the truth. You just gotta basically learn to just shut it out. It's not gonna, these people, what am I gonna say? Saying these stupid things, making these sexist comments aren't going to hinder your career or hinder how far you go unless you let them. And it's, again, as someone who suffers from anxiety, it is hard. It is so hard. But once you go through enough of it and you have that support system to help you, you'll realize, like, okay, I don't have to deal with this. It just kind of rushes over. Like, anytime I get a student comment on an article, it's like, before it was like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. But now, you know, I know that it gets to me because I know that they can't ruin my career if I don't let them.
And there are bad moments, just like with everything in life. And there are bad days where I see the comments and it's just like, I just can't even deal with this anymore. And then I see like, you know, comments that are just like, oh man, this landlord just want to get offended about everything. It's like, your life is sad and meaningless. Like, I can't get you. So, you know, just try to keep it in that mind frame. Like, think about what your life must be like if you spend the time to go around on the internet and find articles about these topics that you hate just so you can leave a mean comment about it. Like, your life is a waste, and I don't have time to shit.
All right, one last question, and the three in the back come on up here so that we can get you one.
So, that was slower than expected. But so, I feel like there are times when I feel uncomfortable, like telling people that like I'm into games and a nerd, and yeah, how would you like give advice to someone who feels like that almost like anxiety about telling people that sort of stuff?
I think it should come out sort of just like organically. I mean, it's part of you, so it's just gonna come out. You know, like you might be wearing something like with like some kind of emblem on it. You might be wearing some like a head bottle necklace or something like that. And you know, I think just treat it like it's any other part of yourself. Like if you just went up to someone and you were talking about yourself, and you was like, hi, yes, I like cats, and you know, I also play video games, and you know, then just let it come out and it comes out. And if people react badly, that's a them problem. You know, if they start questioning your nerd cred, gatekeeping, like that's a them problem. You can just be like, you know what, no, I'm just not gonna like deal with this.
It's again, you know, I mean, like you know, you're only gonna feel kind of ashamed and scared to admit that you're into games, and that's what we like to do because you're letting them make you ashamed. So just again, it's as rough as it is. You just gotta be like, I'm into games, I write for games, I do this, whatever, and I love it, and I don't give a crap about what you think. Because if you know, give them that, oh, I give a crap about what you think, that's when they get you, and that's what they want. You just need, just take it and run with it. Just, yes, this is what I'm into, and you're not gonna do anything about it.
I was going to say, own it. Gamers aren't waiting there. Gaming is bigger than the movie industry these days, so we're in a better position.
Also, you don't want to miss out on the potential friend. Yeah, I'm great too. I actually went to college with my roommates at there, and imagine the house these ladies, each in a different room, all Skyping, all playing World of Warcraft. In the same house, different rooms. You're going to miss out on those kind of moments where you find those type of people that, oh my God, you know, if you never say like, no, I'm into games, you'd be surprised. You find out they're into the same ones.
I also think, like, even if they aren't into games, it's an opportunity to talk about what they're into as well, you know? So it's like a good learning moment. And maybe if they aren't into games, you can recommend something they do like. So maybe if they're like a game that you play that relates that to them, I think it's a good opportunity to forward purchase when there might not be an opportunity for disagreements about that.
Just remember, you cannot have to prove yourself to anyone, and you don't owe anyone anything. So if they try to test you, just don't even deal with that.
You guys want to talk? I think most of us will try to hang out outside for a little while. Thank you so much.